Oh, you want to play psycho killer? Can I be the helpless victim?
Cross your eyes and scream, man! Scream for your life!
These are my favorite flavor.
It's mine too.
Why?
What do you do?
I eat stuff online.
You mukbang?
Oh my god!
I met this girl last night. She's amazing.
What's so special about this one, huh?
She's kind of off in a captivating, quirky way.
Did you know that when I'm near you, my entire body gets tingly?
How did you cook this? This is like beyond good.
Secret family recipe.
Today, I have Amy Kuge. Did I say that right?
Yep.
She is the director and writer of Cannibal Mukbang, which is streaming on Tubi. So this was your feature debut, correct?
It was, yeah. It was the first feature that I've directed. I've worked on a bunch of other features in various roles. So yeah, this was special for me to kind of take the captain seat.
What was the writing process for you? What triggered you to write this script about mukbang and then combining it with cannibalism?
Yeah, so it's actually funny. I started writing another script in like 2016 or 17 called Free Bleed. And that has a whole other story, but it's like a very horrific kind of Handmaid's Tale story about like periods and everything. And a lot of the dream sequences in that I really loved. So some of the dream sequences I wrote so long ago, like for that script, and I pulled them into Cannibal Mukbang. But what really inspired me to start writing initially was I had gotten out of a pretty toxic relationship. And after reflecting that I lost a lot of myself in that relationship in a way that like you can't really see until you're out of it. But I just looked back at my past self and was like, the things you were doing for this person are insane. I started to think about like how horrifying love is and how horrifying like romance is and how terrifying it can be to just like lose yourself in someone. That in combination with having some eating problems in college that mukbanging, funnily enough, actually helped me get over. I started watching mukbangs a long time ago, like in 2017 even. And before that, like before they were even like mukbangs, like I would watch a lot of food content and vegan influencers. And I wanted to sort of combine like that romance, have something with food. I've always loved cannibal movies. So I'm like, why don't I make a cannibal movie? But what really tipped everything off and like set Cannibal Mukbang really rolling was in 2020, I was at a party and there's a random girl there that I don't even know. Like, I don't remember her name, but she was talking about her friend going on a date with this guy on a dating app. And her friend went to this guy's house. He cooked her an amazing dinner. She was really falling for him. She like wanted to stay over. He's like, no, let's take things slow. I'll talk to you tomorrow. So he sends her off after this dinner. She goes home. She falls asleep. The next day she wakes up. She's super sick. And she gets so sick that she has to go to the hospital. They do tests on what was in her stomach, like what she ate. And they're like, so there's human meat in your stomach. That's definitely not yours. So she was fed human meat by this guy and she tries to reach out to him back on the apps and he's off the apps. She doesn't have his number and she never hears from him again. So that's really what like had all these ideas about relationships, about food. And then hearing that really set me off and was like, okay, I want to write a story about someone that gets fed human meat without their consent. And it kind of just snowballed from there.
That is a crazy story. Just the violation of being fed something like that, to be fed human meat. That's like the pleasure they got from that interaction. Like they didn't need her to stay the night because they already got her to unknowingly eat this human flesh. And that's probably what, oh, that's so gross. Like, no.
Yeah. And at the time, like I was vegan for 7 years. And so the idea of my veganism breaking because someone fed me something and for it to be like human meat was terrifying. So I just wanted to lean into that fear and see what would come of it. And Cannibal Mukbang came.
Yeah. This is why you always order takeout.
Yeah. Why you go out somewhere else in a neutral place.
Yeah.
Like it might not even be real, right? Like I don't know if that was a true story or not, but like How terrifying.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like it could be like an urban legend or the beginning of a new urban legend, but I don't put it past anyone. I'm a huge consumer of true crime, so it sounds plausible.
Totally.
The only part that is a little weird is the testing the meat, like testing and finding out it's human meat. I don't know what that process would be like.
I don't know either. That is, it's funny that you call that out and you are a true crime person, because that is something that even me, I was like, why would they, how would they know? Like, how would they know? You know?
Yeah.
Anyone out there listening to this that knows if that could be plausible, please let us know.
Yeah, if you know about this story, if you know who this was, or maybe you can just let us know if it's an urban legend. Because, yeah, I feel like if you went to the hospital sick like that, the next day they would just treat your symptoms. They're not going to, I don't know, the chances of them testing your like excrements, like, I don't know how likely that is. But I also know that they do that for like to find out if there's like E. coli or where it came from. But I don't know if they actually test it or if that's just like a survey someone fills out and they're like, oh, yeah, you have E. coli and this is where you went. So we're going to like connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Interesting.
Either way, I think human meat does make you really sick. I can't confirm or deny this, but from things I've read online, I'm pretty sure you get very sick from eating it if it's not cooked properly. So,
well, you did the research. I have never looked into it.
You're a normal person. You're not looking up human meat stuff. Yeah.
How to season it. What's the best cut? No. And that does come into play into the movie, like the different cuts. And Ash, the character, is so cute the way that she cuts into the flesh.
Yeah. I mean, April Consuelo is an incredible actor. She was so great to work with. And I made her eat a lot of stuff during this. She was a very good sport. She had to put a lot of fake body parts in her mouth, a lot of real meat in her mouth, a lot of like candy that like looks like meat in her mouth. I feel bad for April, but she's the best. And I know that she knows it was worth it too.
Were there specific horror films in the revenge horror genre that inspired you? Because this is kind of like do you consider this a revenge horror film?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely think that it was inspired heavily by like I Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left, like those type of rape revenge type horror movies. But I wanted to give it a little bit more of a spin and give her a little bit more depth than just being fueled by revenge. I think that, yes, Ash is very much fueled by anger and by what happened in her past. But there is a part of her that's really playful and also fun too, that like, I think that morally she's making a lot of excuses for herself for what she does, but she's smart enough to know that like maybe something's not right with some of this. And I'm hoping that in the next film, when I'm able to make Cannibal Mukbang 2, I can kind of explore her psyche a little bit more, because the film is all from Mark's perspective, right? Like we don't ever get inside her head until we're in the flashback. And that flashback is really inspired by Texas Chainsaw Massacre and like the movies in the 70s that were just like, you know, brutal, raw, rough, dirty.
Yeah, I can see that. It was very like rough cut, like almost guerrilla style, a little bit more stylized than that, but still had that like gritty grindhouse feel. Those like flashbacks.
Yeah, and we shot that on 8mm because we wanted it to have that different energy and the different aspect ratio and everything. I wanted it to just be like completely different from Mark's really insular, like kind of stable, small perspective of the world.
Yeah, I really loved her character. Were you inspired at all by Dexter? Because there's like the kill room, and it just reminded me with like the draping of the plastic and stuff reminded me of Dexter.
It was inspired by Dexter, but to be totally honest with you, a lot of why we did what we did is because it was a low budget movie. Like in the script, it was like the whole basement was filled with all of the stuff. Like it was so much bigger, but when it came down to it, like I was filming in my friend's basement and I couldn't move all the stuff out of it. So we hung up all of that plastic and we're like, this actually looks sick. And it is like Dexter, like, let's roll with it. A lot of it was just like what we could do with what we had.
I mean, yeah, as an indie film director, you have to be resourceful.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'd be fun to release the script somewhere someday because it's so much different than the movie. But I'm happy with how it came out. I think that the cocoon, like the little plastic cocoon, is really scary. And I'm happy that people are like calling Ash like female Dexter. I would love that.
I think it works really well. It like kind of creates like this sterile almost environment, and it's like very surgical and methodical. I think there was definitely something to her character that was just very routine and very structured.
Oh, absolutely. Like she's done all this a million times before. If we were talking about Ash's horoscope, she'd be like a Capricorn. Like, this is her routine. This is her home. She's done all this before. She's like very straightforward.
Looking at your IMDb page, I saw you were a producer for several shorts and some TV series. How did your previous experiences help you with Cannibal Mukbang?
That's a great question. So I think that just constantly trying to make things is really important as an indie filmmaker because there's not a lot of resources out here for us. So just building community and like working on each other's shorts and produced and AD'd and even done sound sometimes and done wardrobe for some things and like acted in a few things, like just kind of being everywhere that you can be and working with a lot of people and building your community is very important. So I think that all of the different shorts that I've worked on have kind of led up to this. And my experience just on set doing like EPK work, I worked on Brandon Christensen's like Puppet Man, and watching him work was really inspirational. I think that he is great at commanding a room and also being approachable and making sure that he gets coverage for everything. Was very inspirational for me. Working in TV was funny because it really teaches you like how to find the story and things. So a good example of this is I used to story produce for Teen Mom, and we'd get like a week's worth of footage basically, and we'd have to whittle it down to like 3 minutes. So I'd have like hours and hours and hours and hours of footage to go through. And me and the editor for that episode, we would like just be watching all this footage. Like I would narrow it down, and making that much footage into something really small and intentional really helped me with editing Mukbang, because when I laid it all out with my co-editor, Haley Zalkin, it was 2 hours and 30 minutes long. And like, I can't put out a 2.5 hour movie like this. No one is going to want to watch all of this. So we got it down to 1 hour 40, and that was extremely challenging. But I think my experience of having to get the story out of things and like what's the most important thing for us to show really came through with story producing. So yeah, I think that like in film especially, you just kind of have to put yourself out there as much as you can, especially when you're starting out. And I've worked on a lot of stuff for free. So
yeah. How did you get the financing for Cannibal Mukbang? Like, did you have backers, or what was that like?
It was all self-financed with me, friends, and family. I didn't do like a GoFundMe campaign or anything. I put all of my savings into it, went to some credit card debt for it. Like it was like I just had to make this thing. And I'm very grateful for my family and for my friends for helping me out. And a lot of people worked on it for lower rates. It was important for me to pay everybody that was on my crew and my cast. So a lot of, my friends would work at a lower rate for me. And, it was a really scrappy production. We filmed in 14 days. I used a lot of friends' apartments, went kind of renegade in New York and like filmed in the streets without permits here, which probably shouldn't do. But I did also film in New Jersey and did get permits from New Jersey. But yeah, I had to find affordable ways to film. Like in New Jersey, it's a little cheaper depending on which borough you're in to film there. The whole flashback sequence was in April's family's backyard. So the movie was very like, what can we do with what we have? And who would be willing to like work on this maybe at a lower rate? But me, like in my heart, I just knew that this movie had to come out. And I'm so thankful that it did. And, it being with Jackrabbit Media has been really special. I think that they've done an amazing job of putting the film out there, and it being on Tubi has been really good.
I hope it's getting a lot of attention.
It has strangely long legs. Like being included with Fangoria, like in the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, was really major too. Like I was not expecting that at all. And being able to just like make something is so special. And I'm forever grateful for everybody that contributed and helped me make it.
That's awesome. Like we have to, us ladies in this industry, we have to greenlight ourselves because not everyone is going to see the value in the stories that we tell because it's very male dominated. So it's just kind of like we have to prove ourselves. So the fact that you like saw value in what you did, you believed in yourself, you went out, you did this, and now you're being recognized for it is amazing and powerful, and it's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I really felt possessed. Like I can't explain it any other way. Like once I had the script out and I put the script in some festivals and got feedback and told myself that if it won awards in any festivals, if it got accepted, that I would try to make the movie. Luckily, like I made this while I was working at Teen Mom, and that team is amazing. I worked with a bunch of female producers, and I told them that I was going to make my movie, and I'm like, I have to take like 2 months off of work, and they're like, go get it, girl, like go do it. And I took 2 months off of work and just like made the movie, and they were really flexible with me, so I'll always be thankful for them. But you're totally right. Like the amount of people I know or producers I've talked to were movie made just off of like a log line. They'd be like, oh yeah, I got greenlit for like X amount of money. And almost every time it's a male director and like a male producer. And they're like, oh, this idea about like an ape chasing a woman through the forest in, you know, this country, like we'll make it right now. But then when you like pitch something like Cannibal Mukbang, it's a little bit harder to sell, especially because we don't have talent that's been, you know, like A-list. And I say that with quotes because they're incredible, but they're not like the type of talent that you're seeing in mainstream film. They're independent actors, like non-union people.
Yeah. Your cast was, I mean, everyone's acting was awesome. I don't think even Nate Wise, he did such a good job playing kind of like this incel-y type. How do you see his character? Do you see him as an incel, or do you see him just as like this kind of maybe neurodivergent person? I don't know. What was your vision of him?
So you're going to think this is funny. I wrote his character based on me. And when I first wrote the script, Nate was supposed to be a woman and Ash was supposed to be a man. So to me is like the worst parts of myself, like I put out on the paper. And a lot of their earlier drafts of the script, people's feedback was that Mark was really unlikable. They're like, Mark sucks. Why would Ash want to be with him? He's so whiny and annoying and boring. Like what's up with this character? And I'm like, oh, fuck, that's how I see myself, I guess. So maybe I need to make him better. And I tried to make him a little bit more endearing and funny and goofy. And I think that Nate Wise perfectly captures that. I like that you said neurodivergent because, yeah, he definitely is neurodivergent. I think that maybe it's part of his trauma and him getting hit by a car. And he does have brain damage. It's like she calls him brain damage because I love Frank Henenlotter, and that movie inspired me a lot. But he also does have brain damage. He's an unreliable narrator. I hope that the audience feels that by the end. He isn't a good guy. Yeah, he can be sweet and charming, and he's handsome because Nate Wise is handsome. But like at the end of the day, he's kind of a loser. And it's like, why is she with him? You know? And it's kind of this like BDSM sort of like cuck dom sort of dynamic. And I wanted that to come across too, that like he loves being manipulated by her. And I think only someone, you know, Nate Wise could have really pulled off that character while also making him charming and endearing.
Yeah, he was definitely very submissive to her. And it was almost like he was like a voyeur, like watching her videos of her eating, like the mukbang. He already knew what it was. After his meeting with her, he was kind of obsessive with her, like talking to his brother about her and all these things, and kind of had this parasocial relationship with her before he even really started to have the relationship with her.
Yeah. And a lot of it is like what he wants her to be. Like, I think that scene when he's like, maybe we can stay home and watch zombies is like sweet and sad because he wants a normal relationship. Your relationship hasn't been normal from the start. If that's what you wanted, then maybe you shouldn't have stayed with Ash. Like the moment she was mean to you and then started eating people in front of you, like that's kind of a red flag.
Yeah, 100%. I will say I love the set design of her room. It just reminded me of, I don't know, like a teenager's room, but someone that didn't really mature past their teenage years. Just a lot of pictures on the walls, and it's like almost like a collage of stuff. It's beautiful. I love it. Like the lights, the atmosphere that's in it. But it almost made sense to me when you find out her backstory and her trauma, that she's kind of stuck in this adolescence. Was that intentional?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, by the way. Yeah, my production designer, Matt Weir, and art director, Deanna Buggs, like they crushed it. And I think that their direction for that was I told them, like, this is like an early 2000s teenage girl's room. You need to make this like as bright and colorful and honestly like a little scary, like with how childish it is. In a way that's endearing and could be fetishized by creepy dudes that are like, this is like a little girl's room, you know? But also like reflects her psyche and that she is trapped in this state of adolescence because she never had a childhood. So now that she's an adult with money, she can kind of do what she wants and recreate that and make the little dream room that she wishes her and her sister could be hanging out in. But yeah, that's really observant of you. Like it does reflect how stuck she is in her past, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at that room and I was like, oh, I want that room. Like 20 years ago, I want that room.
Yeah.
Not now, but so pretty.
Thanks. I love that room. It was so sad that I had to tear it down so quickly. We only shot in there like 3 days, less than that, honestly. And it was at my friend Leah Feingold's house, and that was her room. She's like, I wish we could keep this all up.
Yeah. When it
All
came
good.
to the film festival circuit, how many festivals did you get into? Like, what kind of feedback were you getting throughout that whole process? Like, I know that the movie is technically 2023, but it wasn't released until 2025, like streaming platforms. What caused that delay? Was it something where it was released into festivals in 2023?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So it was released in October 2023 with Brooklyn Horror Film Fest. My favorite film festival. I loved it so much. I live in Brooklyn, so it was really fun to have it show in my hometown and have a lot of the people that worked on it go. But yeah, I wanted it to have a good festival run, and I, got really lucky and it got in, I don't know, like 20 to 30. I need to like actually count them out, but it got into a lot of festivals and it got into like Austin Film Fest, Chattanooga. It played overseas in Italy. It played in Fantastic Film Fest, Australia. It played just all over the place. It played at Soho Horror in the UK. Like it had a really beautiful festival life. And I would really recommend that for any indie filmmakers out there. Like put it out in as many festivals as you possibly can because it's free for you. If sometimes they just let you submit without having to pay a submission fee. For me, like once Mukbang started to get into some of the bigger festivals, a lot of festivals would email me and be like, hey, can we get a screener for this? We'll waive your submission fee. So it's a way for you to get your film out there to different audiences and build the buzz around it. For me, the buzz is what got my film distributed. It got a lot of buzz after Brooklyn Horror, and Jackrabbit reached out, and I suck and I didn't see the email. And then the Mark Padilla, who's the sales agent there at Jackrabbit, emailed me and DM'd me again. He's like, hey, he's like knocking on my digital door. Like, I love your movie. Like, can we talk about it? And so May 2024, we started talking about it. And then from there, like Jackrabbit and I just started working together. They acquired the film and needed to do the delivery process of the movie, which nobody talks about, was very expensive and very time consuming on my part and was a whole thing. Like delivering a movie is like another, like people always talk about pre-production, production, post-production. There's part of post-production delivering your movie that's like a whole other months-long process, honestly. A really long time for it to be packaged and be ready to be presented to the world. And that's why it was March. We were going to initially do October, but October is very, very competitive with horror films. So we waited until March.
Yeah, no, I think that's a smart move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so much I could talk to you about and other filmmakers about with delivering, because truly no one teaches you like how hard it is to deliver a movie.
Yeah, I would love to pick your brain about that another time. Okay. The film feels like it's about consumption on many levels, like not just food, but like consuming someone else's physical appearance, their bodies, consuming attention. And the consumption of flesh is more like it feels like consuming that person, part of their personality. What kind of hunger were you most interested in exploring?
Ooh, with Cannibal Mukbang, I wanted to explore number one, like the hunger for revenge. Like she's hungry for revenge. Two, hunger for lust and love. And then three, definitely like that digital social media consumption too, where she is like constantly churning out these videos and constantly having to fuel her own hunger for revenge, her hunger for attention. So, those two things just end up feeding each other. And then Mark is hungry for love. And so he's willing to let her basically like devour his life before she ultimately, spoiler alert, I didn't show it, but it's assumed that she eats him at the end. So, yeah, I think that there's a lot of different types of hunger in this. And the film is definitely about consumption and about how that relates to love and like losing yourself. And I do think that in this life, like in Ash's life, when she eats her victim, she absorbs some of their power. I think that's why she is so freakishly strong for being such a small girl, why she is so alluring and charming and interesting is, she is absorbing these men and their like lives and their evilness and their power and using it for what she thinks is right. Yeah, I think that Ash is a deeply unhappy and confused person. And she's kind of constantly filling that void with these acts of violence.
I'm really glad you brought up the whole consuming their energy and like kind of taking that in, because that's kind of like I did a lot of Native American horror movies at one point, and that's kind of part of the lore of cannibalism. And I can't remember the name of the creature. There's like a creature that devours flesh, and it can never have enough.
Wendigo?
Like, yes,
sure.
The Wendigo.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I said Wendigo. I sounded so like Western.
Yeah.
Wendigo. Okay.
Yeah, it was the Wendigo. And there are a bunch of horror movies about the Wendigo and eating flesh and consuming flesh and how you are able to take that person's power and all these things. And I think in the movie, you see her transition in her flashbacks from when she is able to kill her attacker, and then she consumes him and she takes his power, and she talks about how she's getting stronger by consuming him. And I kind of took it as kind of like the Wendigo.
Yeah, for sure. I really was inspired by the like tribal cannibal lore, where a lot of, I forget where the tribe is and I don't want to butcher this, but there was like a tribe that was studied for like being cannibals. And they said that it kind of like for people that eat human brain, I think it is like there is some sort of virus that makes you like crazy and sick. And I feel like she has some of that in her, but also has this sort of fantastic power that could fall along those lines of a Wendigo, where she is like absorbing the swamp man. I'm calling him the swamp man, his evilness and his power in a way like this is really fucked up, but he ate her sister like 2 days before that. So she's kind of absorbing like her sister back in her body too, in a weird way. And it's really disgusting to think about, but I really think that Ash as a character is not like of this world. Like she has some sort of otherworldly aspects to her. Otherwise, like how would she survive all of this? Physically, even like she is such a small person that like, if she could actually overpower her attackers in every situation.
Yeah, there is definitely a fantasy element to it with the one attacker where she like breaks his arm, which is such an amazing scene. I think that's like the first time you really see her come into her power. And it's so badass. I can't remember exactly what her line was, but it's just so empowering, and you're rooting for her the entire time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that scene is so funny to me because she is so powerful in it. But then later on, like, of course, she gets hit in the head with the wine bottle and that knocks her out. I hate that happens to her. But I also want people to see that, she is freakishly strong and she has all this like supernatural power. Like she's caught off guard. And maybe it's because, spoiler alert, it's Mark's brother and it's like part of her like love's DNA. And like maybe she's kind of captivated by Maverick in a weird way and like caught off guard. I think that that sort of thing has happened to her many times. Unfortunately, like I imagine Ash's character has gone through the same thing with Mark multiple times. Her sole purpose is this revenge. And ultimately it gets, in the way of her having a companion. Because I think Mark could have been her companion, but rage consumes her and he betrayed her. So
yeah, he ends up just being like a little cuck and nothing much more than a little cuck.
I know. He's so terrible in that last third. It's hard for me to even watch. I'm just like, come on, dude. Like you had a baddie. You had a beautiful, smart, funny person to be in your life and you just ruin it for your evil brother.
Did you feel like you were pushing back against the way women's bodies are consumed online or amplifying that reality to make it impossible to ignore?
I think a little bit of both. I did want to amplify that sort of e-girl aesthetic with Ash. She knows how to dress to get the attention that will lead her to her victims. But Ash kind of molds herself to like whichever person she's seeing. And I think her different outfits, while they're really fun and playful, like they are kind of voyeuristic to like what you would assume like these type of men want. She is wearing the tiny skirts and she is wearing the crazy wigs and the super bright makeup. And she's always cosplaying as what she thinks that these men want and how she thinks she'll lure them in by dressing a little bit younger or like showing more of her body. There's a really important scene to me that everyone just talks about as like the butt scene. But to me, that scene when she's walking with Mark in the park and we see the close up of her butt while she's walking, for me, the most important part is that Mark is trying to hold her hand, but he's still so like awkward and like doesn't really know where they stand. And he hasn't really come into himself that he can't even hold this girl's hand, but he's like killing for her, keeping her secrets. And all anyone can focus on is her butt. And I think that it's a really fun experiment for me as like the director to talk to people after the movie. And so many people will bring up that scene and be like, that's so voyeuristic. Like it's so just exploiting her body in this scene. I'm like, did you notice that he's trying to hold her hand? Because that's what's actually happening. But everyone can't stop staring at Ash's butt. I think that it's fun for me to kind of talk to people and see like what they get from that. For me, yes, like Ash is showing a lot more of her body. And she is kind of taking advantage of that sort of trope of like an e-girl, like a pretty online personality and, sort of self-exploiting. But at the end of the day, like she has the power in every single one of those situations. And also too, like I wanted Ash to be like very confident in it and into herself. Like she likes how she looks. And with working with April Consola, like we talked endlessly about Ash's outfits and her looks and how fun, playful and girly and like sexy. And I wanted April to feel so confident and good in every single one of those outfits and every single scene. It was a really, really long process, like developing her looks and coming up with the type of style that she has. That's this kind of like kitschy, poppy, kind of like cunty look,
Yeah. Now, I definitely saw that as you captured the male gaze in such a powerful way, kind of showcasing her power. I did see it as showcasing her power. And she walked with confidence. And she didn't care that she had part of her butt cheek hanging out because, she's like this goddess almost. Like she was very powerful. And,
Totally.
goddesses are a lot of times like, you don't have to cover up. They have power in their bodies. And I think that is a powerful thing to show someone being comfortable in their body. We can look at that and we can see how mesmerizing that is and how it is inherently sexual, but it's inherently sexual because she wants it to be, not because we are just looking at her. It's because she has made it so type thing.
Right. And it's also, to me, it's so unfair that women can't just dress for their bodies and make themselves feel hot without it being for the male gaze or this thing, that they're sexualizing themselves for other people. It's like, can you just be hot for yourself? I don't know if Ash is being hot just for herself. I don't think she is, but it is funny that there are all these conversations about what women wear and how that relates to men. But then like, if a man dresses a little slutty, it's not like, oh, he's doing this for the female gaze. It's like, he's confident, he's stylish, he's cool.
Yeah,
Not all the
100%.
time, but there is a fun, deeper conversation with that. With like, I think that some critiques of the film are saying it's a little like misogynist, but then it's like, how can it be? Like, if you really look at it closely, like, is it,
Yeah.
or is it just this woman like taking back her power? You know?
Yeah. I was going to say too, it's almost like the way she dresses makes her very unsuspecting. She does play into these stereotypes and she does play up like this girly pop, like, oh, I'm just here for your consumption. But it works in her favor because it creates this false perception of what women are and what women should be and the role that we play. And it catches them off guard.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that you're totally spot on with that. Like, she is trying to be this like innocent, sweet girly pop that no one's going to suspect. But then there's all this rage inside of her. And it was just really fun to play with that. And I'm so lucky with April because she is so diverse with her acting and was able to swing so wildly between both of those sides, you know, of her personality and seamlessly too. It was really fun to have her be so sweet and charming, and then in that end scene for her to be like screaming, like really screaming,
Yeah.
was incredible.
Yeah, no, she was amazing. How did you find her? How did you come across her?
I'm so lucky, and I didn't have a casting director for this. I did the casting myself. I went through Actors Access and found April in a sea of headshots and was like, who is this person? And I had a few people audition and she just really stood out. She just had this like depth to her immediately and this intensity while also looking like a Disney princess. Like, she's such a beautiful, conventionally attractive person that could play like she's a teenager, but she was in her mid 20s when we made this. And it was really important to me that I had an actor that was old enough to like know everything that was going on. Like, there was no world where I was going to try to film this with an 18-year-old, because I'm sorry, like it's too intense. I would never want to put someone through that was like still in their teens. You know, like I wanted Ash's character to not be easily pinned down with like how old she is. Is she in her 20s or is she in her 30s or is she like randomly in her 50s and just has this like cannibal power that makes her younger all the time? Like, I just didn't want you to be able to like nail her down as a viewer with how old she is.
Yeah. I didn't even really think about her age, but I knew that she wasn't a child. So that's good.
Yeah.
We don't want children.
I know. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad that we have to think like there's just so much disgusting stuff out there that I'm like, there's no way I would ever work with someone who wasn't old enough to understand what any of this stuff is.
Yeah.
So,
no.
Even her sister is April's actual sister, Autumn Consolo. And we got really lucky because she's like very short and she could play really young. But she was, I think, 23 when we did that, 24, playing like a 10 or 12-year-old. We just got really lucky. So yeah. Highly recommend Actors Access for people that are casting it. You never know who you're going to find.
Nice. I will keep that in mind. Okay. The brother dynamic between Mark and Maverick. He knows his brother is a jerk, but calls him harmless. To me, that felt like a commentary on all the men that we make excuses for in our lives, whether they're family or friends. The patriarchy is guilty when it comes to excusing predatory behavior. And I felt like their dynamic just perfectly illustrated that toxic environment that not only like the predator, but the person that allows it to happen in these instances. Was that your intention?
Yeah, it definitely was my intention to sort of portray these different types of toxic men, because Maverick is a very outwardly toxic person, but Mark is like, he's not so much, you know, like I feel like before the end, you think that he is a sweet guy and that he's going to stand up for Ash and be on her side. But when it hits too close to home, it's like the men are going to protect themselves. And it is a really hard dilemma for me to think about personally, like with my sister. And I wanted there to be the sisters and the brothers in the story and how they protect each other and stand up for each other, right? So one of my biggest fears is something happening to my sister because she's my best friend and the only person I've known for my whole life, you know, and if something happened to her, I don't know what I'd do. for me, like writing that conflict at the end with Maverick being the scumbag and Mark having to choose between his brother and his new love is like sometimes those ties are so strong that you're willing to make exceptions. I wanted to write something where the viewer could put themselves in these characters' shoes and think, if you have a brother or sister, like, would you be willing to forgive them for this? And we see this all the time that like men are kind of forgiving each other, whether it's like fraternity bros or like bros in like business. Like there's this sort of fraternity, kind of almost cultish sort of thing with guys where like if one of their bros does something wrong, was it actually wrong or were they pushed to do that? Or was that person encouraging them to do something bad? Was it what that girl was wearing that made her a slut that made him want to do that to her? Like how far are men willing to go to excuse poor behavior and evil behavior? Yeah, I really wanted that relationship with the brothers to reflect how our society is. And we see it all the time with like court cases too, where it's really sad, but like, I don't want to bring up some of these things, but in the script and in the movie, I made it really obvious that Maverick's not a good guy. But throughout the movie, you're like kind of forgiving him and like being like, oh, he's funny. He's like the weird, comedic relief of this like serious romantic movie.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, it's
he
like,
kind of
oh,
just
course
comes
it's
off as
Maverick.
like a bro, just like this douchebag bro. And actually, as you were talking, I was thinking about how, the Epstein files has been being released, all these things. And I don't know if you've seen people making these reels, but they're like, every family has their own Epstein files. Have you seen that going around?
Yeah. It's so terrifying. It's
Yeah.
like, it's just so sad what so many people are willing to sweep under the rug because it's family or because it's someone close to home. So yeah, I think that the big moral dilemma there is with the brothers, and it sort of mirrors like Ash's relationship, because if the reverse were to happen, would Ash do the same?
Yeah.
It's complicated.
I was really glad to see this like dynamic play out between them, where it's kind of like calling out the rape culture and these guys making excuses for each other. A lot of times we see the predator side of it, but we don't see the others allowing it to happen. The people who have let this behavior continue and not called it out. And it does seem so mundane and everyday. And we don't see him as a bad guy until the very end, because that's how common this is. That's how common these things are in our lives.
Yeah, it's diabolically terrible. And it's just like unavoidable, this culture of people forgiving other people for doing terrible things. And it was hard for me even to film the scene when Maverick is getting choked by Ash and she's saying everything that he's done. I could have maybe tried to show him do some of those things with my budget. Like there's no way that I could do that. And I also morally, I'm not sure I'd be able to capture that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just so many evil things that people do that like portraying it on film is extremely challenging. So I was hoping that the viewer just hearing her say some of those things would be enough to be like, wow, this guy sucks. Like we don't need to see what he does. He's doing it in the shadows.
Mm-hmm. I really liked how it was like less is more, because it keeps you guessing. Like, he's not a good guy. At the end that he's there. But when she starts naming off all the list of the things that he's done and why she has brought him there, it's like very believable. It's like, oh yeah, like I can totally see this dickhead doing that. But until she says it, just like it kind of builds up to this ultimate predator that we see in our everyday lives. And so I thought it made it more realistic to not see all the background of what his character did. So I like that.
Thank you. And yeah, I think it was enough for the viewer to see that he's like literally about to rape our hero of the movie. And Mark walks in, and instead of being like, don't do that, he's just like, Maverick? He doesn't even tell him to stop. I think that in itself is so telling of like Mark's character and how he cannot believe that his brother is evil.
Yeah. When it comes to Mark, he had no agency of his own. He was always looking for approval. So whether that was his brother or that was Ash. He was being pushed around in every direction. So he's like a very heavily influenced person that if his brother was to say, we're going to kill Ash, he's very sheepish. He would probably be like, okay, like I love her, but like, I get it. You know, she's killing men. Okay. You know,
He has no backbone at all. And of course, the only backbone he has is when he does something bad at the end, when he defends his brother and hurts his girlfriend, like hits her in the head hard enough to knock her off and knock her out. Like, I just think that he does so many things that like I cringe when I watch it. And I hope that the viewer does too. And it's like, yes, it's your brother, but like there's just so many things that he does wrong at the end.
yeah, no, I had that feeling. And, you know, I actually put in my notes that Mark takes on this submissive and timid role. And I loved the reversal of the roles. And I feel like it's actually very realistic because most masculinity is just like a front and men are actually really emotional. It kind of reversed those roles, but it also makes sense because you said that you wrote it. I wouldn't have known this before, but you said you wrote Ash as a guy and you wrote Mark as a female character. So that kind of makes sense that it did that too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mark is like the most feminine man. A lot of the reviews on Letterboxd have been so funny because it's like queer people and like lesbian people being like, oh, this is so lesbian coded. Mark is a woman. Mark is a trans. Some people are like, Mark is a trans woman. They call him so many feminine things. And it's just, to me, I'm like, yes, you get it. Like he's like not a normal man in this. Funnily enough, like even though he was written based on me and is like a very feminine character, you're right. A lot of men that are actually like that deep down. But our society, at least in America, doesn't let men be like that. And I think that it's a big part of like the male loneliness epidemic, where it's like men aren't able to be emotional. They're not able to talk. They're not able to express themselves. And that's why as soon as Mark gets the intimacy he's been craving, he freaks out and runs away because he can't handle that someone loves him. Like he just can't handle it. It's too much for him. Even though that's all he wants throughout this whole movie is he wants Ash. And as soon as she says she loves him, he freaks out and runs away. It's so frustrating.
So how much of the effects was practical? It seemed like most of it was. Did you have to do any digital retouching afterwards?
Oh, so we did a lot of color correction and we did a lot of like adding grain on certain things and, you know, that sort of stuff. My cinematographer, Harrison Kraft, also did color correction on the film and he did a fantastic job, but there might be like some moments where we would like darken something that maybe didn't look as good or brighten something. But for the most part, like actually all of the effects were practical. There was no like digital effects in the movie. It was really important for me to do everything practically. I wanted it to have that like 80s vibe. And even some of the things that might not look as realistic, like I still wanted them to be practical. I wanted it to feel tangible and real. Kind of a nod to those like 80s splatter movies that I really enjoy.
The scene where she's taking apart like the first body kind of reminded me a little bit of Reanimator. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
Just like the way that the body was cut up and the way that the practical effects. I really like the look of the organs and everything as she was like cutting into the person. How did you create that? Like what kind of practical effects was that?
Yeah, so a lot of those body parts were from my special effects artist. Her name is Ashley Thomas and her partner is Alex Solorzano. They work for Yellow Moth Makeup and they're based in New Jersey. They made a lot of those body parts. They had almost all of those organs already and they just repurposed them. I think that they're all made out of silicone. They're incredibly talented and were a dream to work with. So a lot of that was from there. They actually had that chest cut open for another movie called Capsules that my DP worked on that came out, I think, 2 years before Mukbang. But yeah, they repurposed that chest and we were able to use it for the scene. They did a life cast of the actor that gets his arm snapped in half. They did his arm, his leg, his head, and I had them do all their lines, from here up so they could like perform a few times and I could choose the best performance. And then we cut away to a lot of those close-ups on another day. Like we filmed all that stuff separately. So that was challenging to edit. Probably the most challenging scene to edit for sure. Because in my dream world, like I would have had that full body and it would have been a lot more gross and we'd see her eat a lot more stuff. But you got to work with what you have. So I kind of went more with performance, and a lot of the, I think, grossness comes out in the sound design, making it juicy and gross. I worked with Brendan Laird on the sound design, and Jenna Edwards, one of my best friends, did a lot of like Foley to make that stuff as gross as it could be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I did have something about sound design because there were so many sound effects when she's pulling out the organs, and it's just like very wet and visceral. And even when she's eating, it kind of brought you into this fantasy world with her, with all the sounds. I just thought it was really, really well executed.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was a really long process doing all the sound stuff, and a lot of watermelon and, food was crushed up. So we have Jenna and Brendan to thank for that.
Well, thank you, Jenna and Brendan.
Yeah, thank you both. I actually did a short with Jenna a year or so after called Brian Won't Wear Condoms that's on the festival circuit. If you guys want to check that out. There's a lot of fun sound stuff in that too.
I love that. That sounds like a feminist film, a feminist short I definitely want to see. I can only imagine what that's about, like how that goes.
Yeah.
It sounds good. I like it.
I'll send you some stuff after about it. It's fun.
I was going to say, I really loved like once Ash was able to let her guard down and Mark was like accepting her. I love the murder montage. It was so cute. I called it a murder montage. Like her little gothic dream sequences like she's in her cute little outfits, but she's all covered in blood. And she just looked like she was having so much fun. And I loved it. What was it like filming those scenes?
So almost all of those scenes were after we wrapped principal photography. We had a 2-day pickup shoot. And over those 2 days, we did a lot of those murders. Those were so fun to film because we didn't really have to worry about sound as much. And we were just like, let's get creative. And me and Matt Weir and Deanna and Jackie, the other makeup artist that did a lot of special effects on it, we just kind of brainstormed like, okay, who can we kill? And a lot of people were like people on the crew. Like Deanna is the one who gets their head smashed against the wall. And my friend Garrett, who did production coordinating on the film, gets like axed in the head. And then someone who worked on the art, Robbie, he gets like, he's the one running out of the shed that like gets axed in the chest on the ground. My body gets dragged through like a cemetery. My dad gets like his throat cut in my kitchen. Like there are so many fun things. I mean, that was like the most fun thing to film because we just had to think about like how ridiculous can we make this? It was a blast. And like April got to just wear so many fun outfits. And yeah, I just wanted to really show them being like this like fun Sid and Nancy type of like couple that's just like on the run doing ridiculous things together and enjoying themselves. And I think that having that song from Alex Cuervo, he let me use his song Are You an Assassin? I think it's by the Hex Dispensers. Yeah, the Hex Dispensers. I got to edit that with Haley and we just wanted it to be a blast. It felt like a little mini music video in the movie. So thank you. Yeah, it is the murder montage.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I loved it. I was like, oh, it's so cute. She's so cute while she does murder. So we already talked about the patriarchy and protecting rapists, like how our culture is like embedded. Rape culture is embedded in American culture. Pedophilia, I think people are finally realizing, is embedded in American culture. And I think that's captured in the movie with the dynamics between the brothers and also the way that Ash dresses, how her age is so ambiguous. I think that kind of captures that too. What message do you want people to take away from the ending of this film?
I think the main message that I want people to take away from the film is the end of the film is complicated because not one of these characters is totally good or totally bad. It's a hard film to decide like who is right and who is wrong. I think both of them are wrong at the end of the day. I think I am Team Ash because I love her. And I think that her goals are ultimately good, but the way that she's going about them maybe isn't great. it's really hard to trust people, and it's really hard to sort of make excuses for people that you love. And I think that Mark is making all these excuses for his brother that he loves, but Ash is not willing to make any excuses for the lines that he's crossed and the boundaries that he's crossed.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, you don't really know a lot of the people in your life. And I'm not saying not to trust them, but I think that with everything going on right now with like Epstein and with all of the horrors that we're seeing, hopefully as a society we can kind of wake up and like look more into these things and not just brush them under the rug. With the sequel, I want Ash to be going on this revenge tour to find Maverick, and who knows what will happen, but I do think that going to try to serve justice with all of that, because I think Ash is kind of like the vigilante that we all sort of need. Like where is the person that's giving these people what they deserve? I can't like publicly advocate for like murder, but a lot of these people are evil and like they deserve to be punished.
We have to live through these fantasies. And I mean, I do the same thing in my screenplay. It's like, it's very much a fantasy, but it's a fantasy because the reality really fucking sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I want people to watch this to be able to escape and feel a sense of justice that someone is out there killing these terrible people that are raping and killing women and children. And, you know, these people that just get lost in society that like no one thinks about. It's fucking terrifying. I wanted to show something that was fun and sexy and kind of funny in some parts, but also like it is a serious movie. It is about someone dealing with her trauma and killing rapists and pedophiles, you know? So yeah, I hope that the viewer has a sense of catharsis in some ways. And I think that if you are siding with Mark and feel really bad for him, I think that maybe think a little deeper about like what he was doing and what he was willing to forgive. And maybe ask yourself, was this actually a good guy? Do you just think that because he's charming and shy that he deserved to survive that situation?
I would say even look past, if we think of this as a metaphor, think about if you feel like Mark was not deserving of that outcome. I would say look at the people that maybe you're close to. This might elicit some kind of defensiveness from men. But if it does, I challenge those men to look at their relationships, their interpersonal relationships with the men around them. Is there someone that you are making excuses for? That we all have blind spots and it's not a conscious thing. It's, you know, we have these biases and we have these perceptions, or, you know, society has given excuses to men, you know, a lot of forgiveness to men in these situations. And it's like, you know, are you playing into those societal expectations? And how is that harming the people around you? You know?
Right. Yeah. That was a very eloquent way to put that.
Trying.
That was so good. Your education background is like, so it's showing so hard right now. I love it. That was beautiful. I feel like I was trying to say that and you totally put that out there. So thank you for doing that. It's hard. I have so many men in my life that I love, like, you know, like best friends, guy friends. A lot of the people on the crew on this were amazing men. My dad, like my uncles, like there's people that I love. And it's really sad to think about, like, would they do this same thing as Mark? And I think that that's something we should question. And if that's what you take away from this, is just like looking at your own relationships and looking at the societal relationships that men have here in America and abroad, it's even if you hate the movie and you're just like, well, was that right or wrong? Like, that's all I ask. That's all I want. I just want people to have a reaction and to like think about these dynamics a little bit. They're going to continue, you know, like this thing it's not going away.
And there's a lot of, when it comes to moral gray area within our lives, just daily, it's just trying to do better always.
Yeah. And does Ash probably need to go to therapy and like learn how to cope with things? Yeah, of course.
Was there anything? So you said you had to cut it down from like over 2 hours to an hour, 40 minutes. Is there anything that you would have liked to have kept in, but you just couldn't? Like one scene that you were like, oh, I really wish I would have like kept that in, or something like that?
Yeah, there was a really fun scene where when Ash gets pushed into the bush, that's such a funny sentence, by one of the dates that she's on with a bad guy. She is in that bush. Mark jumps in and she's like starting to kill this guy. But Mark hears a couple in the park that they're in walking by and it's like, shh, be quiet, be quiet. And she's like, like laughing and like killing this guy. And he's like, no, be quiet. There's people around. And she's like, wait a second, pulls Mark down and then like fakes having sex with him. She like rides him, putting quotes up, and does all these really fun like fake sex noises. And he does too. She's like, join in. And it's a really over the top fun scene where they're like doing all these over the top moaning and like fake sounds. And they improved a lot of it. And Nate Wise like does such a good job improving and it made all of us laugh. The couple walks by and they hear it and the couple is, wait a second, I want to see them finish. I want to hear them finish. And the wife is like, you're disgusting. Come on. And she takes them out. And it's really funny. Like it's one of the funniest scenes, but it just was too funny for the script. Like it just felt like it was, it pulls you out of it a little too long and it would have pushed the movie closer to the 2 hour mark. And I was like, I have to get rid of it. It sucks because it's so funny. And it is a deleted scene in the German Blu-ray of the movie. And hopefully I'll be able to bring it to America if we do a special release like Blu-ray with special features. I'd love to add that in, but there's like 4 scenes that got cut out and all of them are kind of funny and weird. And one other thing that I'll say is the restaurant scene was supposed to be a lot longer. Ben Frankenberg was the server in that scene and they had a really good line and I had to cut that out. And it was so hard because that day was like a stressful day and I really wanted Ben to be in the movie. But then when it came out, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Your scene got cut. They were really understanding. But yeah, there were a lot of things that got cut that I think were fun. But the bush scene in particular was really funny.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can get that in America because I would definitely buy the Blu-ray and get all those little special features. I would love that.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. I'm working with some people.
I have 2 other questions for you. So, well, I guess we already talked about this. What you see yourself doing next. You already have a project that's like an emo horror movie, which sounds really interesting. Are there specific topics you would like to tackle that could benefit from a woman director's perspective?
Absolutely. I think that female friendship is not explored nearly enough in film. And with my emo horror movie, it is all about like female friendship, self-harm, what you would do for your friend, and like how like complicated some of those lines can be. And I think that that's something that I would love to explore. And I don't think is explored enough, especially in horror. I feel like women are so often just turned into like final girls in horror that like don't really have friends, especially female friends. So yeah, that's something I really want to explore. And I have other ideas for scripts that are a lot more comedic and just over the top and ridiculous, which I also want to explore a little bit. I think a lot of the horror right now being made and, you know, distributed a lot is like about trauma and motherhood and all of that, which is very important. And I would like to eventually get there. But I think that there's a lot of that like kind of juicy time, like for women that like don't necessarily have families and aren't really at that stage of their life. Those relationships that we have with each other and with ourselves, I think, could be explored a lot more.
Sex
like,
in the City, but
late
make
20s
it
to
for...
like 30s and stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. you said that right after. I'm like, women in their 30s and 40s, like, there's not a lot of horror that's like not centered around them like running away from someone in a haunted house or like dealing with being a mom. You know, like where's the Sex in the City type horror stuff? Like I want to see some of that.
Especially women have been kind of veering away from having kids young. And there are a lot of women who are vocally like, I don't want to ever have kids. And they don't have a lot of representation.
No. And if it is, it's like negative spinster. I really want to make more, even 50s doing stuff and still being like hot and like doing fun things and not have it not be centered around their age and them like having a family. I just want to see more stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. I would buy a ticket to that.
I'm a Japanese American person, and I think that it'd be fun to make something about that too. I think that being a writer director, like there is no like time limit on when I can make these things. I think the more experiences I have, the better of a writer and director I'll be. So, you know, hopefully throughout my career, I'll be able to explore all of these things and more. And maybe I will make the movie about the woman being chased by a bear in the woods, like something fun like that at some point. Yeah. But I like how I call that fun, but something that's more like, you know, action and a little bit more mainstream. Like it'd be fun to do something like that eventually. But right now, the emo horror movie is the next thing with female friendship.
I love it. My last question for you is there anything you would have done differently pre or post production with this film?
Ooh, I wish I could cut it down to an hour and 30 instead of an hour 40. But with the way we filmed and everything, I'm telling you guys, it was almost impossible for me to do it without compromising the story. Like, I myself agree. I wish that it was an hour and 30, but it was very challenging to edit it down. You can talk to me and Haley, the co-editor. We spent a lot of time thinking, how can we cut this off, and shaving off a minute or 30 seconds. And to a certain point, it's like we're taking away from the movie. And I hope that people are able to accept the film and its length, because I think that it's important for the character development that we have all of the lines that are in there. So yeah, I think that that's really the only thing. Like, I think everything happens for a reason, and I'm very happy with how the movie came out. And I just want it to exist and continue to do its own thing. And I want to continue to make stuff because it's important to continue to make things even when the world is burning. So
if anything, it's more important right now. It's like, it's what we need. And I think this movie is something that could be a cathartic relief in these times where we are seeing all these horrific images, and we're seeing really like the veil's been lifted, and we're seeing these circles of men that are protecting each other. And so this movie could be very therapeutic. I think it's time. It's time for us to start getting more into female revenge, because it's just good fun.
Yeah, I could not have said it better, for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
Thank you so much for having me, and let's definitely stay in touch. I hope that your viewers like this, and available online for free on Tubi. You can also watch it on Prime, or I think Apple TV. There's also a Blu-ray too, and there were VHS tapes. We're going to try to make more. So yeah, appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
I don't kill just anyone. I only kill the ones that get away with doing horrible things to innocent people.
How many people have you done this to?
It's a circle of life. People live and people die. God, I just feel so alive.
This is so much more fun with you.
Hey, all you bangers. Welcome back to my channel.
We got something special. Food is fuel. I don't know about you. I'm starving.